me about it. Come on, let's talk about it. Change up the things you see. Open your mind to possibilities. Find your power, passion, and your purpose. You know it's time for you to walk in greatness. Let's murder mediocrity. Slay your goals, live out your dream. Live the best right now. Inspirational perspective.
July is focused on work and money, but coming to you with money from a little bit different of a perspective, given the upcoming holiday, quote unquote, Independence Day. I say that facetiously on purpose because, man, there's just it's interesting. It seems to happen around this time of the year too. Like you can't even, move into the 4th of July or so-called Independence Day with peace. As a brother or a sister or a father of a melanated child. It's like it's just always something. We're going to talk about that today. And then, of course, your goals in terms of your purpose and spirituality and what you want to create in those areas of your life. And so today I want to talk about this complicated situationship we're in with America. You know how on a relationship status is somebody, I think we together. I think, well, I don't want to discount the fact that we be messing around. You know what I'm saying? But at the same, so I can't put I'm single, because if I put I'm single, then I'm going to get a phone call, I'm going to get a text. Right? But I can say it's complicated, and they be like, because they know we're not really together right now, but we are, because you was over there last night. I was over here last night, I was over there last night, but we not. Because when I left, you like, so what's happening? I'm like, we ain't right. So my relationship status is, it's complicated. That's what Love and I in the dating gym call a situationship. And you don't want to be in a situationship because it's stressful. It's not healthy. Typically, there's all types of level of toxicity taking place in a situationship. But I got to tell you, when I look at my relationship with the United States of America, it falls in the same category for a whole lot of reasons. Like, I'm like, man, I was with you last night and we had an okay time, but then I got out this morning and we argued again. Or you might say, I turned on the news again. And right when I was feeling at home, I started feeling like I was in a foreign land all over again. So I want to talk about that this morning, man. Like, tomorrow's the 4th of July. A lot of us have already gone out and spent hundreds of dollars, like hundreds and hundreds of dollars, because inflation is real, on fireworks that will literally burn. And in celebration of what exactly? Like, that's what I want to, like, in celebration of what? Now, let me say this, because a lot of people listen to my show, and if you're not an African American in the United States of America, then what I would say is just, listen to learn. Listen to learn. Because this is at least my experience. You can give me a phone call if you have a different experience and check me. And I'd like to know exactly where you live and what you do and whose news you watch. Because I'm imagining if you disagree, then you must be in hermit mode. Off in the deep woods where nobody sees you, and I'm surprised you got a signal. But this is kind of where I am. So here's what I want to talk about. I want to talk about the complexity of being what is so-called black in America. I say so-called black because it's a label. And if you've been listening to me for 4th of July's or around the 4th of July for the last few years, then you know every year about this time I go into this mode. So don't be surprised. Now, to the person listening right now who's like, well, then just leave. Because that's typically the response. Well, just leave then. It's like, well, why would I leave a place that my ancestors bled and died in? In many ways, unlike yours. And the reason I say unlike yours is because we got a whole bunch of immigrants that come into this country. I'm not talking about our Mexican brothers and sisters. I'm not talking about them, because as soon as you say immigrant, most of the time that's what comes to mind, right? I'm not talking about my Middle Eastern brothers and sisters. I'm not talking about them, okay? I'm not even talking about my Indian brothers and sisters, because they get classified that way and it remains that way when they come into this country. I'm talking about anyone that can immigrate into the United States of America and immediately, or in some ways, depending on where you're from, maintain your sense of superiority. That's who I'm talking about, right? So you didn't bleed, you didn't die, but you came over and you reap the benefits, and you say, well, why don't you leave? But the reason we won't leave, because we have bled and we have died. And in many ways, it is the labor of our ancestors that built this civilization, this country. So that's why we don't leave. And in terms of leaving, I think that in many ways we should, at a minimum, go visit the motherland. We should go visit the motherland because in many ways, that is what really frees you from what many of the things I'm going to talk about today. Because what happens is, part of the reason for this lack of self-esteem and confidence is we're being fed lies. And in being fed those lies, when we actually accept it and believe it, then there's an impact. There's a psychological impact. And the transformational tour of Ghana is all about shifting and in many ways completely transforming who we are spiritually, mentally, emotionally. So when you come back, this doctrine doesn't impact you the same way. Here's one way to think about the transformational tour of Ghana. Another way to think about this tour, we're going to talk about, part of what I'm going to be talking about today is the psychological change, the psychological chains that disrupt our ability to think for ourselves, to move for ourselves, to break this mode of consumerism, etc., to operate powerfully, to break this mode of hoardism. What I mean by hoardism is I keep talking to individuals who have parents, and by the way, some of us have it too, but I'm talking about our more mature parents that they're still afraid they won't have enough because they've been psychologically wired from years of not having enough, that they won't have enough, so then they hoard. Some of us can't even park in our own garages, man. And part of what this trip does is it begins to remove those psychological chains so we can move forward powerfully and let go of this doctrine that we've been indoctrinated in, that we are inferior. One of the things I'm going to talk about today in today's show is what was it, Forbes and Nielsen? Got to look at my notes. But one of them was, they called us, what they call us, what they call black folks in this. They gave us a name in terms of like an adjective in terms of how we influence spending. We're tastemakers. What is a tastemaker? Like whoever wrote this article, they were saying, well, I don't want to call them influencers, right? Because, God forbid we call black folks influencers on the whole of the globe, right? They were like, I imagine they were in the thesaurus for probably about 10 minutes trying to find the right word. So they wouldn't give us anything. See, we got to notice stuff like this. Like, there's nothing empowering about this. Like, how it's written, like, Nielsen's research shows black consumers as tastemakers. What's a tastemaker? Like, I make taste? What they really should have said is creators. Let me reread this. Nielsen's research shows black consumers as creators and influencers when it comes, like they would have saved them 10, 15 minutes of their life just to say what it is. Because we all know that already. We all know that. But anyway, I'm going to read the whole thing to you because, yeah. Anyway, so we're creators. Most of us don't know it. That's why we spend so frivolous, like you're not really thinking about it. Because let me tell you, the same way they look at you at work, like, then they show up wearing it, and you like, oh, I thought, but it's because you're a creator. But is that how you want to use your creative capacity? Consuming, wearing, and then following that whole cycle again. And by the way, that means that your money's quickly leaving your checking account, if you have one, your savings account, if you have one. If anything, your cash is leaving your pocket. And I hate to say it like that, but just be real. In terms of full accountability, most of us, go look at the numbers, but a lot of us don't have some of the simple functioning financial tools. Whenever I'm working in corporate America, one of the things that comes up often is this notion of imposter syndrome. And when I'm having this conversation about imposter syndrome, it's with individuals that look like you and I. Okay? And we're basically trying to figure out why, at this point of our lives, when we're experiencing some level of success, we feel like imposters. Why? And I get this all the time. Like, no, have you felt this way? Like, have you felt like an imposter? And again, we're talking about the complicated situationship that we have with the United States of America. And this is one of the reasons why it's complicated, right? Because even when you figure out how to be successful in these United States, there's still this sense of, I don't belong. I'm not supposed to be here. I'm an anomaly. When you walk into the meetings and you're the only one there. When you go into the boardroom and you're the only one there. When you're asked to speak, when you're asked to talk, when you're asked what you think, and you're navigating this notion, this sense that I'm being measured. I'm being constantly evaluated. Anything that I say that doesn't align is going to be judged. This notion of imposter syndrome that for many of us forces us to put our heads down and work on our competence and push on our competence or get the next certification or go to the next training or go back to school and get that master's, go back to school and get that doctorate. And then we're still left wanting when we feel unseen, when we feel unrecognized, even though we know, like, the work that I do holds this department together. The work that I do holds this part of the organization together. we still feel unseen. And there's a reason for that. It goes to part of this relationship, this complicated relationship we have with the United States of America. Or this whole notion of self-worth. Well, where many of us have learned to put ourselves last. Where did that come from? And by the way, it's not that this doesn't live in others. I just see it overwhelmingly in my clients that are African American, that are quote unquote black. I see it overwhelmingly in these clients where we really struggle with self-worth. We really struggle with self-value. And we really struggle with self-love. And then you have to ask yourself, well, where does this come from? Like, what is the root of this complicated way of being where even though I go to church every Sunday and I put both of my hands in the air, when the preacher says you're a child of God, I feel it in my soul, I feel it in my spirit. But then come Monday morning when I go to work, I feel absolutely no level of divinity. Like, what's the source of that? What's the source of something that's so insidious and so powerful that it can drain your spirit that quickly? What is it that causes us as African Americans to find in-store shopping so relaxing, so far and over the stats for any other group? Nielsen reported that 52% of black people find in-store shopping relaxing compared to 26% of the total population. So of the 26% of the population that says this is relaxing, by the way, we make up 9. 52% of them are us that engage in this retail therapy, and about half of black consumers say they enjoy wandering stores looking for new, interesting products. What's this thing? It's like this lack of self-worth, this lack of self-value that has me trying to clothe myself in and adorn myself in things that will lift me up and make me better. Why is it that I know cognitively, logically, that I'm a child of God, but in action, but in application, in theory, I don't know how to be? What is it? Or could it simply be that I'm surrounded, I'm completely surrounded by a notion, by an energy, in an environment that the walls always feel like they're coming in on me? Every time I turn on the television, in some subconscious way, I'm being told I'm not enough. In some subconscious way, I'm being told that the only way to be enough is to purchase, is to buy, is to look, is to be something other than who I intrinsically be. But then it's weird because now I don't feel worthy in my own skin, but others that don't look like me are working really hard to have brown skin. Like, it doesn't make sense to me. Laying out in the sun, damn near burning, going to have expensive medical procedures to have lips like me. And I back in the day, man, you know, they might would have got on you about your lips, bro. Now, like, It's free. Right? Like back in the day, Justin, they might have got on you about your lips. But now, there are women of different races who they're paying good money for lips like yours. Blow them up. But then why is it that if other people want to look like me, I still have this sense of inferiority? Like, what's going on? Like, this doesn't make sense to me. It's like walking in a house with a woman who says, I can't stand you. Ooh, I love you. Come here. It's toxic. And this is what I'm saying. It's a complicated situationship. The second hour, I'm going to talk about how we deal with it. But here I am. For years, especially when I was growing up, to have a big butt wasn't cute. I went to a high school that was majority white, and that was not. You like that? And now, here we go, 2022, people having expensive procedures, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000, to make themselves, I guess, physiologically look like we do. So what's happening? Like, it's not just that we're tastemakers, right? In the realm of fashion, but we have this power that we don't know about. And it's not just here in America. Let me tell you, this imposter syndrome, this self-worth, this self-value, it has spread itself to any part of the world that's been colonized. One of the things that we see in Ghana is part of how this impacts our brothers and sisters there. So we go there to get the truth. We go there to get the history. And at the same time, we're seeing how many of them want what we have over here. When you really look at the situation as a whole, you can clearly see it's just not true. You're a tastemaker. You're a creator. You're an influencer. But then on the flip side, there's some things that we're suffering from. We're suffering from this notion of consumerism, where we're giving everything that we bring in away. Here's what I want to talk about in the second hour. In the second hour, I'm going to go through some stats that they'll blow your mind. I've shared some of them before, but they're going to blow your mind. We already know that African Americans have $1.6 trillion in spend. It's, by the way, projected to go to $1.8 trillion by 2024 in terms of overall spend. All right, so, and I don't think we always really understand what that means. So I'm going to read this right quick. Just this piece. So 1.6 trillion means that we have, that's a realization that that's more money than Spain. That's more money than Mexico. That's more money than the Netherlands. That's more money than Turkey. Get this. It's more money than Switzerland, that is known for banking. So we generate and have the spending power, more spending power than Western nations. Yet, collectively, there's a lack of self-worth. There's a lack of self-value. There's a lack of self-love. I don't know. You look at that, and you look at where we are, and you tell me that something's not wrong. And it's hard for me then to say that if that's the case, that any of us should be celebrating Independence Day. Because what it tells me is that when you generate that much, but you don't have much, you're not independent. You're not independent. What is independence? The fact or state of being independent. So you might say then, Linnell, what does it mean to be independent? What does it mean to then be independent? And what I see here is to be independent is not under the control or rule of another. Now, it's clear to me that there are others in this country that are not under the control or rule of another. I mean, they can commit heinous felonies. They can break laws. And there's nothing more than maybe a slap on the wrist. They can, in many ways, try to have a coup. Attack the Capitol. And there's not much, like, that's independence right there. That's, I'm not under anybody's control. I can do whatever I want to do. I'm not under anybody's rule. And no one else can tell me where I can go, what I can't do. And by the way, I might even break your rules. Here's another one. Here's another definition. Definition number 3 of independent. While many of us celebrate Independence Day. Not requiring or relying on something else. And by the way, I've had people call me say, well, you know, the government needs to. But I'm not relying. Like if I'm independent, I don't require, nor do I rely on something else. Here's one more that I think will really, really get us going. To show a deep desire for freedom. Like you can be independent if you show a deep desire for freedom. And by the way, like based on what I know as a coach, anytime somebody has a deep desire, it's followed by some level of action. A deep desire for that's what I felt when I was in corporate America. I'm like, I don't like this. I'm like, hey, I remember I'd be like, hey, such and such television show wants to interview me. I had to ask permission. A grown man, because they own me. I had a great salary that basically said that you have no autonomy because you represent us and we gave you a title. And so, I would get these opportunities and I would have to write the communications team and CC my CEO and say, hey, they were like, well, now we don't think that's a good look for us. So, no. That meant I wasn't independent. Like what I'm reading here, there was a time where, self-governing. Well, I could not self-govern. And by the way, like, this is where, in many ways, they want us to be. So how do we, like in the next hour, I want to talk about, like, how do we get to a point where we can self-govern? How do we get to a point of independence? How do we get to a point where we don't make up 52% of the people that feel relaxed when they're in store? You know why they feel relaxed? Because they have autonomy. I got some money in my pocket. I can choose whatever I want. And you ain't been able to choose whatever you want all week. And so for once, you get to be independent. And in that moment of independence, you actually further enslave yourself financially. Over the weekend, my wife, I came in the house. I was outside. The landscaper was out there with him and I talking. I come in the house. My wife says, "Have you seen this?" Seen what? This boy, 25 years old, in Ohio. Jayden Walker. So what are you talking about? And she started going. I said, I'm like, man, really, I don't even want to see it. She said, no, you need to sit down and look at this. So I sit down. I start reading the article. Because I definitely don't want to watch whatever I don't want to watch how they narrate it. It's a 25-year-old boy. From what I understand, now, Justin and I, there, y'all in the studio. From what I understand, no priors, no record, no weapon. Gets gunned down in Ohio. And when I say gunned down, shot 60 times. Mostly in the back. 60 times. They say he drove for DoorDash. I don't know if he was driving for DoorDash at the time. 60 times and over 90 shots fired. Let's do some math. If you have a handgun, right? Most of these officers carry Glocks and things like that, right? That means that you have 16 bullets in the clip. Now, if I'm extra paranoid, I got one in the chamber, which means I have 17 bullets. All right. So I got 17 bullets. From what I understand, there were 8 officers or 8 police cars at a minimum for one boy. Somehow he gets away, he runs. And they shoot this boy 60 times, which means that most of them had to unload their weapons into this child's body. Now I'm going to just ask a question. What other group of people has this ever been done to? Like, what other group of people has this ever been done to? And we already know the answer to that, but here's the other question. What other group of people could this be done to? See, you got to understand, we are now in a place where if we don't step up and make it where this can't be done, it only gets worse from here. What happened to George Floyd? Insidious. Like the fact that you could put a knee on someone's neck and suffocate them to death. And then to flip around And just 2 years later, a 25-year-old boy, and by the way, between George Floyd and Jayden Walker, there's been other situations, let's be clear. But we get riled up when it's this bad. So what are we going to do about it? Let me tell you why we can't do anything about it. In the United States of America, there's one currency: money. Money equals influence. So here we are with $1.6 trillion in spending. $1.6 trillion in spending. Like I told you before, that is, in many ways, not many ways, it is solidly more than the nation of Spain. I guarantee you, an American soldier could not cross the border into Spain and shoot a soldier over there 60 times. We couldn't. It'd be all over the news. Things would come to a stop. President Biden would be making an address. I ain't heard him say nothing about this. By the way, you're not black if you didn't vote for him. Only time we get rubbed on the back is every 4 years. When we gonna wake up? $1.6 trillion in spend, projected to be 1.8 in 2024. If you look at the GDP across nations all over the world, that puts us at 23, 24 as a nation in this nation. And so here we are with that kind of financial power, spending power, but we have no power. Why don't we have power? Because we give it all away. Like if we want to figure out how to step up, like it's going to take some discipline. It's going to take vision. So African Americans make up 9 to 10% of this population. There are 47.8 million of us in this country. Now get this, a group that makes up 9% of the population. Actually, no, more than that. I'm sorry. We make up 13.4% of the population. Get my numbers mixed up. Forgive me. We make up a group that makes up 13.4% of the population is the second largest consumer group. How does that make sense? And then get this. In the articles I read, even though we make up, right, we're the second largest consumer groups, companies still aren't fully bought into the fact that they should advertise to us. That's how little they value us. They still have to be convinced, oh, I need to market to them directly. Because we give it away so freely. Pop, 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 pop. So, businesses in this country, just hear me out. Businesses in this country, when you look at who we are, 47.8 million strong, spending power of 1.6 trillion. Think about the financial opportunity stake alone in the black community. And then, despite being 13.4% of the U.S. population, black households accounts for just under 10% of the nation's total spending on goods and services. This is according to McKinney. So we spend and spend and spend, and then look at this. So you got this impressive number. This is Forbes, by the way. This is in Forbes in September. So you have this impressive number that's more than Spain, more than Mexico, more than the Netherlands, more than Turkey, more than Switzerland in terms of what we generate annually and we can spend. This is what they say in Forbes. It's nearly unimaginable to think that the collective purchasing power of black Americans is greater than most developed countries. They like the writer, I know the writer in Forbes is like, I can't even, like as he was like, it's unimaginable. Why is it unimaginable, sir? Because they don't see us as powerful. They don't see us as powerful. So then when you look at, wow, this group has $1.6 trillion in spending power, greater than most developed nations, you have to ask yourself, why are we not a nation among ourselves? The Jewish population is smaller than ours. They get mad respect. Mad respect. You can't hardly say the word Jew with a negative connotation before or after it without getting pulled, called on the record. But you can say pretty much whatever you, man, you got folks that say the N-word that they take a year off and come back the next year. And by the way, the only reason they had to take the year off is because we got together and said, wait a second now, wait, oh my goodness. And then it has to be combined with something horrible that just happened to say this is what, and okay. And then if it's an election year, you got to go sit down for a while. Over the break, I asked, you tell me about one African American luxury brand that we dying to wear. Somebody put Rockaware. Most of us don't even have that in our closets. That most of us don't even have that. Justin over there laughing out loud, literally. Okay? Like most of us don't even have Rockaware in our own closets. By the way, if I wore a whole Rockaware outfit on the show, y'all laugh at me. But then if I put on Gucci, Louis, Chanel, and by the way, Lacoste, French. Did you know Chanel was a Nazi sympathizer? You know, a lot of us, we're militant all the way up to what we spend our money on. And this is how this lack of self-worth works, because I got to be militant, but I got to be good while I do it. Or I'm going to be militant, but I got to feel worthy while I do it. So I got to have my Chanel pen or my Chanel bag or something while I'm marching, or while I'm talking about the wonders and the beauty of black folk. What's wrong with the Ghanaian-made dashiki? And Ghanaian gold. What's wrong with that? With the Nyami. What's wrong? You get wrong? But I don't value that. I don't know to value that. By the way, Nyami means supreme God. It's a symbol that means supreme God. Now, why we don't wear that? The Adrinka symbol for supreme God. Why is that not the thing for us? Most of us don't even know what it looked like. But we can see we can see a Chanel brand. We see that far away. Oh, that's Chanel. That's Louis. Isn't that Gucci? We don't even know what our own people are doing in the continent. That's why I take people back. And a Adinkra symbol, what's that? That's what many of your ancestors used to communicate. Powerful symbols. We'll get this other stuff tattooed on our bodies. So how do we shift this? This is a conversation about self-worth. See, because here's the thing. When I believe that I'm worthy, then I begin to believe that my brother and sister is worthy. $1.6 trillion circulating within our community, there'd be no reason for poverty. There'll be no reason for government subsidy. there'll be no reason. You say, well, Linnell, they won't let us do that. I'm like, but how could they stop you? How could they stop you? If you find your lane of value and you can provide that. But what if it's all about, we talk buying black, but there's no way that's what we're doing collectively when you look at how we're spending. So then we say, this is how we do it. And yeah, I'm complaining today. But Independence Day is tomorrow, so I think I get one Sunday. Okay? But this is what we do. We'll say, Target didn't put a store in our community. Why did they do that to us? Well, if we just had a Mariano's, this wouldn't be a food desert. But how many of us are actually saying, let's get together, put a grocery store in this community, for the community, by us, for us? And the reason, by the way, the reason we can't say it, here's the reason we can't say it. The reason we can't say it is because most of us don't have the financial backing to make those kind of moves. Why don't we have the financial backing? We don't have the financial backing because we got all the shoes, all the bags, all the clothes. I was reading another article that said one of the reasons for African American, for the lack of African American wealth is because African Americans, when they do invest, they pull out of the investments too quickly. So we don't even hold. We don't hold. You say, well, Linnell, we got all types of, economic factors happening. I get that. And I'm talking to all of us because there's some of us that got it. But as soon as we get it, it goes into, man, what's the number on Mercedes-Benz? There's a number of Mercedes-Benz in particular that overwhelmingly African Americans own per capita more Mercedes-Benzes than anybody else. Like per capita, right? So again, remember, we make up 13.4. I want to make sure somebody said my numbers are confusing. We make up 13.4% of the population. So then when you look at the number of, like the percentage of Mercedes-Benzes that are consumed within our population, per capita, like we have way more. But then when you look at how much money we have collectively in terms of financial standings, we got way less. I've been saying it all last quarter. We're pre-recession. I've been saying it. Justin, have I been saying it? Have I been saying it all day? I've been saying we're pre-recession. As of Friday, we're in a recession. But why is that not on the news? What's the definition of recession? Don't trust me. Go Google everything I'm saying, even the numbers I'm sharing. Don't trust what I'm saying. Go find it out for yourself. Go check out the definition of recession. It's a period of temporary economic decline during which the trade and industrial activity are reduced, generally identified by a fall in GDP in 2 successive quarters. We are in the third quarter of 2022, and we have experienced over the first and second quarter a temporary economic decline in trade, in industrial activity, and it's been reduced overall. And by the way, that's not on the news. And Facebook done slowed me down a long time ago. So people, unless y'all share this, people ain't gonna know. I promise you, if I had cats dancing on the table here, that'd go. They slowed my page down a long time ago, man. I'm serious. Unless I pay, it ain't happening. Okay, but so here we are in a recession. So what are you supposed to do? This is when you hold. This is when you hold. But do we have the discipline to hold? Here's my fear for our community, because this is how recessions hit our community. I'm going to take some phone calls after this. We spend. By the way, some of us, we're like, but we just came out of a pandemic. I got to live my life. And it's like, man, you have no vision. You don't have vision. Do you realize how well you could live your life if you just kept that money in your pocket right now? Because everything's about to go on sale. Not yet. Mark my word, 2023, 2024. But because I bought the car, like, it's just not the right time to even, like, I'm looking at houses right now, shaking my head. Like, it was a goal, but that goal's in breakdown, and I'm actually okay with it. Interest rates going up, inflation. You look at the price of these homes, you're like, man, they got to be crazy. They got to be nuts. But some of us, it's like, man, I just gotta, like, man, I can't wait to flex on them. But then a year from now, it won't even be yours. It takes about a year to get you out. So 2 years from now, it won't be yours at the foreclosure. Folks, like, do we really see what's happening? And this is one of the reasons, like, in my opinion, there's like some of the best investments you can make right now is into yourself. Like, understand why do I consume? Get the support, therapy, coaching. Like, what do I need to do to gain more financial clarity? Coaching, financial coaching. What do I need to do to budget? Like, putting money in those areas would give back to you exponentially right through here. Exponentially. Linnell, I don't understand the stock market. I don't understand investments. Like, even what's happening right now in the crypto space. Like, if you bought crypto whole, I'm not a financial advisor, by the way. But there's a relationship to that in the stock market. Stocks are falling, people are pulling money out of crypto. And it already said blacks we don't hold our investments long enough. Because most of us, we start liquidating. Because I'd much rather have a bag than a low value stock. I much have it, by the way, y'all already know what I'm going to say. I much rather have a low value stock than a bag. Because guess what? It's coming back. It's coming back. I mean, the trend's always been there. But we get caught in these loops. And then many of us, we don't believe in savings because, I retired. I saw my parents retire. They put all their money in the 401k. It wasn't nothing there. Well, okay. So then what other retirement vehicles can you use? I've talked about them before. Life insurance policies, IULs, annuities. But we don't know, at least according to the data, when we take financial surveys, we're scoring 32, 36%. So we don't know. What's the best place to invest your time and money right now? Financial education, financial clarity. Self-education, self-development, personal development. Whew. Tracy put on, she said, gains with no losses. That's right. I haven't even looked at my annuity while the market's been falling because I know I didn't lose no money. All right. Let's take some call. Man, I'm going to share this. When I came out of corporate America, I was blessed, incredibly blessed. I had a substantial sum of money. I liquidated all the stock in that company, all the options, substantial sum of money. We didn't go buy a car. We didn't go buy a house. We didn't go buy clothes. We didn't go buy bags. We didn't go buy shoes. We didn't take expensive luxury vacations, although we do vacation. But that's all budgeted. It's all situated. We took that. We put it in an annuity. know what, let's take this, let's just watch it grow with no losses. And I told my wife, I said, now we got to generate more cash. Now we got to, because retirement's handled, now we got to figure out now. She wasn't that happy with me. She is now, though. It's not even retirement time. But where's our vision? Where's our vision? We go back and you look at this notion of FUBU, Carl Kanai. I want you to look at what was happening back then. And I want you to look at what's happening now. Because this is part of what was hurting us. Music is spiritual. We know that. They know that. When I say they, I'm talking about music executives. So when we were coming up, the music artists, like, by the way, you take a Damon John, right? Damon John acquired his wealth through pushing this, was it FUBU fashion? It was FUBU fashion, I believe Damon John had, right? So he was a partner in FUBU fashion, and he became wealthy from pushing a brand that artists wore. So black owned. I want you to see what's happening right now, okay? So the artists back then, the LL Cool J's of the world, the MC Lights, and you go back and listen to the music, right? It was just talking about what was happening in life. Some of it was wholesome. Some of it, you know, they got a little tough. Mama said, knock you out, I'm going to knock you out, whatever, you know. But, I mean, I would love for my son to listen to that as a teenager. Let's just put it like that. Like, I'd be like, all right, you know, cool, right? I mean, seriously, compared to what they have now, where it's Percocets, Molly's, talking about drugs, all these different things, right? Rakim, thinking of a master plan. You know, I'm like, you know, all these different things. All of them were wearing, you know, they would do the videos wearing, you know, clothes for us, by us, which is what FUBU meant, right? And this led to Damon John creating wealth, black owned. You see how fast they shut that down? You see how quickly they shut that down? Now, I want you to think about something. Regardless of how you feel about Kanye, he is the only artist outside of Jay-Z that I know that has been able to infiltrate the fashion industry since then. And look at the pressure, like look at the pressure he's under as he does it. And this is, again, you can have your opinions about him. I just look at patterns. Now the industries are only pushing people who talk about consumerism. And they're talking very specifically about what to consume. How do you think your children know about Alexander McQueen, Tom Ford, like all these, like it's in the songs. When Jay-Z dropped Tom Ford, the name of the song is Tom Ford. Right away I thought, did Tom Ford pay him? He had to. He had to. Now, why? I don't know for sure. But he had to. He had to. My whole point is, this is the power of our music. And if we want to get underneath why we are where we are, because we're being programmed to be this way. We're being programmed to be this way. One of the things that Pam and I do with Legend, we'll do with our daughter, is we're very thoughtful about what they watch, what they listen to, right? And then, even already, we've begun to position Legend's mind to be critical about what he watches. Like, we don't want you watching this. This is what happens. It influences who you are, how strong you can be, what kind of man you can be. Like, we're already there. I get that we're going to lose, like, I don't want to say that. Words are powerful. I'll say this. I get that often when children become teenagers, you lose a certain amount of influence. Okay? And that things could shift. But I believe that's also the idea of driving stakes into a child that actually bring them back. And I think about myself, like 14, 15, 16, left home at 17. Ultimately, the stakes were so deep, I came back. And that's why that's so important, man. I've been blessed, and I've been blessed with. I was talking to my landscaper. It's a Jamaican brother. Him and I, we chop it up, and he always teases me. He was like, whenever I call you, he would say, "Dennis, give me a second," and I hear in the background. I said, that brother. I tell my partner, that brother's always working. He's like, but you're working in silence and you're working at a keyboard. And he was like, just kind of complimenting that as an older brother. And, but I was just letting him know, I left corporate America, but I left corporate America because I saw how they valued me. And I realized that I wasn't putting that level of value on myself. And that's what pushed me to understand my finances, to understand business the way I understand it today. Because I'm like, man, if they see it, I got it. And that's what I really want us to get. Like, we got to see how valuable we are, how worthy we are, and the power that we have. A community that are tastemakers. I keep saying that. It's funny to me, right? That are tastemakers, creators and influencers. Like, why aren't we pushing our own stuff? And I go back to Kanye. Y'all wearing those ugly sandals. I mean, he got the world wearing those things. They horrible. They look horrible. I don't know if they're comfortable or not. You know what I'm saying? They look horrible, man. Like space shoes or something. But that's the level of influence. If he can do, like, why can't, and by the way, he has the financial backing. But what if you did? What if I was talking to one of the customers that was renting one of our cars? She's like, my son has his own brand. He made $200,000 last year off his own brand. We need more of that.
If you keep your mind focused on God, that finger on God,
ooh, that's good.
All those other things will fade away because he will have everything fall out from underneath you that you think you're relying on, and he'll say, now, who you relying on? Mm-hmm. And when you keep your mind focused on that finger, that's God, that one God, things generally will look like it's going off track, but it will pick right back up. Now, I haven't noticed it to be any different in my life, and that's how I have been able to make it with money, without money. He always opens something up for me to expand. Mm-hmm. If you seek, and you ask him to expand you, and you're doing what he asks you to do, you're not compromising priorities, then generally things will come to you to make an opportunity for you. But if you don't use that opportunity right, or you spend it foolishly, you're not certain you're going to get that back again. Don't rely on the world's method of, right. It's going to work if you do this, if you do. No, that's not true. Because God has a plan for you, whether you use it or not.
That's good. Thanks for that, Anita. That's really good. Man, you know what I just thought about? With her saying that, like, even when it comes, like, because we're talking about, self-worth, self-value, self-love, that pushes us towards consumerism. And if I'm being prayerful and thoughtful and remaining in my spirit, following the word that says, in all my ways acknowledge him and he will direct my path, some of this stuff we wouldn't even buy. We might be at the register and say, this ain't even good for me. And a whole different level of wisdom and understanding will come over you if that's what you're doing. And I thank you for saying that, because sometimes it just takes prayer. Like, release me from this consumerism spirit. Release me from from this American doctrine of inferiority. Like, help me understand, like the Sister Michelle, that I make the $1 hat. The hat don't make me. But it comes down to, again, it's insidious, man, this doctrine, this American doctrine of black inferiority. And let me tell you, I love everybody, but I'm very clear about the love that I have for my community. And that's why I have these conversations. And we need the help, we need the support, and we're not under fire like other communities. And this community is under fire.
Something else I learned is that we have a debt-based economy. And what that means is they're dependent on us spending our last penny, not black people, all people, but us in particular, because we do it so disproportionately.
Go on and say it, Susan.
Yes, to fuel
That's how the economy works.
That's how the economy works. I'm going to tell you, my girlfriend said, we were talking about, I said consumer price index. And she said, oh, who cares about stupid old consumers? I said, our whole entire economy is stupid old consumers. Lynn Richardson said, the engine of America is business. But guess what the engine of business is?
Debt.
People.
Yeah, people. That's true. People. Human capital, number one. You're right.
Even if it's business to business, the business is still, at the end of the day, even if it's going to be commercial, at the end of it all is consumers and people eating whatever. But yeah, thank you for opening our eyes even more.
You're welcome.
Yes.
Beautiful. Thank you for the phone call. Great way to end the show. Tomorrow, we're all off work. I think Cliff said it. You got to ask yourself, hey, and this is not, let me be clear to close the show. It's not a conversation about hate for America. You don't end up in a complicated situationship with someone that you hate. It's typically love-based, right? And there's a lot of dissatisfaction there. And that's where I am. That's where many of us are. And tomorrow, I think there's an opportunity for us to really think about how we can be fully responsible for shifting the relationship. How do we be fully responsible? Become at cause for our finances. Become at cause for the businesses we build. Become at cause for how we consume. Fully responsible for it all so that we can begin to powerfully move forward in alignment with the power we already have. Hey, my inspired peoples. Linnell Harris here, certified ontological coach and trainer. I'm so excited that you're watching the channel. By the way, did you know you can catch the show live at 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. every Sunday morning? You can. All you have to do is go to my Facebook stream, Coach Linnell Harris, catch the stream live, or you can listen to the radio show via iHeart at WVON 1690 AM. But since you're here, if you love the content, I ask that you share it, like this particular video, and subscribe to the channel. I hope you're having a great day.